Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti. Questo webinar sarà in inglese, spero di riuscire con il mio inglese non particolarmente fluente ad introdurre nel modo che merita la nostra ospite. Adesso passo appunto a parlare in lingua inglese. Good morning to everybody and welcome to the fourth webinar of PMI NIC initiatives con il NIC, an appointment with experts on project management to accompany you in lunchtime with pleasant and amazing subjects. I am Tony Ciccardi, PMI NIC volunteer and Deputy Director of Piemonte Val d'Aosta branch. Today we continue with an international speaker, Simona Bonghez, to talk about agile adoption or transformation in many kind of organization, discussing about success and failure stories. She is president of Romania PMI chapter. She is also managing director of a consulting company specialized in project management sector. She is passionate of serious games and has developed and launched an APM board game, and she has in preparation other 2 games, convinced that play game is a powerful and effective way to learn. Me too. Before we start with the webinar, I want to say that today we will have a poll during the session, so you will be called to vote. You have also the possibility to make some question to Simona, and if the time is enough, she will try to give you an answer. Otherwise, we will answer offline, and she will answer offline, and you find the answer annexed to the presentation. Now, let me give the floor to Simona. Simona, you yesterday told that today's session should be more interesting than the one of today is more interesting than yesterday, so it called a lot of people. Now the participants are more than 260, so there is a big expectation on your speech today. Please, Simona, now is your time. You can go.
Thank you so much, Tony. Good afternoon to all of you. Let me recap a little bit what we talked about yesterday. Actually, we agreed that our objective in these 2 webinars is to find a successful recipe for adopting Agile or for going through a whole Agile transformation. And I disappointed yesterday all of you by stating from the very beginning that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Sorry for this. Yes, I know nothing is easy in this life. But the good news is that once we start, we can use any of our experiences, good or bad, to learn, to improve, to make better decisions. And you remember the story about how useful our failures are when we learn something from them. And this is, don't you think, a relieving thought that all the pain, the unpleasant moments of a failure can be transformed into something good, into a useful experience. So we also talked and we stopped yesterday after concluding that the most important factor that prevent us from having a smooth transition to a new way of working and thinking is culture, or better said, the things that differentiate us. And we talked about the different type of culture using this William Schneider's model. Now, just let me add to this that there is no better culture type than another. But depending on the type of work, one of these cultures may be a better fit. Schneider even suggests that most companies have a single dominant culture with elements from the other 3 culture quadrants. So other cultural elements are even encouraged as long as they serve the dominant culture. We had yesterday a question about how this change, a possible change, is seen in these cultures. Now we talk about change in terms of adopting or transforming agile. Agile culture is about collaboration and cultivation. So it's much more closer to these two type of culture characteristic. Does this mean that you cannot implement agile in a command and control type of organization? Of course not. It is possible to implement it in any type of organizational culture, only that the approach should be different. So maybe in a command and control type of organization, you will need more documentation, or maybe more focus on a structured approach. But definitely it is possible. So the main idea is to start by asking some very important question. What is the culture in my company now? How well is the culture aligned with agile? What problems can I expect due possible misalignment? So let's see some of the examples I promised you yesterday. And our first example is ING Netherlands. In the summer of 2015, the Dutch banking group embarked on a very ambitious journey, shifting its traditional organization to an agile one, inspired by Google, Netflix, but mostly Spotify. They ended up by having 350 squads of 9 people organized in 13 tribes. Successful? Yes. ING reported that they improved time to market, they increased both employee engagement and productivity. Now, not having enough information, inside information regarding the specific company culture of ING Netherlands, I decided to move to a higher level and to see if, from a national culture perspective, are there chances to be successful in taking over a model from a Swedish company. So we are talking about a company from Netherlands taking over a Swedish model. And what I did was to use a tool developed by Erwin Mayer, well-known professor and author in Cultural Differences. I highly recommend you to check her website. And I decided to compare the two countries. So you can see here there are 8 dimensions, and it is compared Sweden with Netherlands. Now, I won't insist on discussing all the different dimensions. I would like to focus only on 2 of them. So you can see here leading and deciding. The leading scale, this one, refers to the power distance in a specific culture. So how willing are we to accept that power and authority is unequally distributed? Both Netherlands and Sweden, you see there are, I try to move the mouse here, there are on equalitarian side of the scale on the left, with a very low distance between a boss and a subordinate. So the best boss in this type of culture is a facilitator among equals. On the very right end of the scale, you will find nations as Russia, India, Japan, for example, with a multi-layered organizational structure and people respecting hierarchies. Deciding, it's about who decides and how. In a consensual culture, as you can see, Sweden and Netherlands are here. decisions are made in groups through maybe unanimous agreement, whereas in top-down cultures, decisions are made by individuals, usually the boss. Japan, Sweden, Netherlands are consensual culture, whereas Russia, India, China are example of top-down culture. So I wanted to show this because in an agile culture, what we implement is the self-organizing teams. Teams are able to decide about how to work. Teams will not ask their boss about what to do and how to do. They will agree together what to do, but the how, it's under the agreement of the team. Now, what I wanted to show you is that ING Netherlands, after its successful agile transformation, they asked ING Romania to go through the same type of transformation. Should ING Romania use the same model? Let's see the differences between the culture. You see again, Sweden and Netherlands. Please follow the leading and the deciding dimensions and compare it now, Netherlands with Romania. And think about the self-organizing team. Could you use the same model when moving to agile in Romania, where there are huge differences in how people see the power distance, on how they rely on consensus? And this is only to remember that yes, agile can be implemented in any kind of organizational culture, but the way of the implementation should be different considering the specificity of each country. Now, the second example, it's a little bit different. I specifically like this one. It's about a multinational company with some of their teams from Germany, France, and Romania. They started the agile transformation in France, then they moved to Romania, where we supported their transformation. And we started with 2 teams in Romania and ended up with 12. What was specific aspect of these teams in Romania we worked with was the hero syndrome. Almost each team has his hero, usually a high technically skilled person who was used to save the day. So where the team struggled with the problem, they usually sat aside until the crisis, then stepped in, worked hard for 2 days and 2 nights, and solved the problem. Now, do you recognize the type of culture where the strong technically skill is extremely appreciated? Yes, we talk about a competence type of culture. Now, in an agile environment where collaboration is the key word, such an individual does not fit in the team. What do you think that happened in this organization with these strong personalities? Very skilled individuals facing this new way of working. And now I will ask Tony to help me with the poll. Tony, can you start the poll?
Yes,
So
yes,
the
I
question
start.
is, thank you. The question is, what do you think it might happen with these strong individuals? The poll will be open for a minute. So I see now that we do have the answers. Thank you so much for contributing to the presentation. And we have a huge percentage of people considering that they will strongly resist the new approach. Some of you are really masochistic, saying that they will be promoted to a managerial position. And some of you are thinking about people accepting the new way of working, or they leave the company.
Now I stop. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So probably you can see now the results. Can you share it, Tony, so that everyone sees? Perfect. Now you can see the results of the poll, and I can tell you what happened in this specific Romanian company. Romanian with influences from France and Germany, but with a very strong competence type of culture. The individual strongly resisted to the new approach. You're right. And most of them, they left the company. So they couldn't accept this new way of working. And most of them left the company. Now, the question is that, can you afford a company which is used to work with very highly competent people to lose them? Which is more important for you, to implement the new way of thinking, the new way of working, or to keep the strong, technically skilled people? What can you do in order to make the transition more easy for them? And this is an important question. How prepared are you to lose these people? How prepared are you to make the sacrifices and keep them in the organization? Now, the third example is from a totally different industry. It's from the publishing industry. And we talk about a company that it's called LeanPub. LeanPub, it's a powerful platform for serious authors. It's a unique combination of two things: a publishing workflow and a storefront. So what you can do is to start writing your book. If any of you, ladies and gentlemen, would like to become a writer, an author, then you can start working here. The platform allows you, it's a kind of magical typewriter. You just write in plain text and you can publish your ebook just clicking a button. And once you click the button, the publish button, anyone in the world can instantly buy your book from LeanPub and read it on their computer, tablet, phone, or whatever. So whenever you want to distribute an update to all your readers, just click the publish button again. It's really very easy. I have a very good friend who published a book about Agile. And I asked him, how was his experience? Because this is being Agile, embracing the Agile mindset on a personal level, of course. So how easy is to decide what is a minimum viable product that can be published? Is it only a chapter? Is it just a few pages of all the chapters? And when do you decide that it is ready so it can be published and people will give you feedback? He told me that it was so strange to publish something that it was not completed, far from being perfect. But the surprise was, after receiving many feedbacks, the possibility of updating what he already have written and publishing the new version, which was clearly a better version than previously. And if I'm correct now, he is at the third update. And you pay only the book, but you are allowed to any update and improved version that the author will release. So, ladies and gentlemen, these were the two examples. I gave you one example which considered the differences on a cultural level between nations. Then the second one was an example from organizational culture. And the third one was an example of the personal level mindset. The idea is that for all these three examples, the agile transformation, the agile adoption is not an end point. You cannot define a target and then consider it achieved. It's a journey. It's a continuous fight for improvements, for better decision, for a better approach, for better results. And therefore, it's a journey without a finish line. And what we can do during this journey is, of course, to fail, to succeed, but to learn a lot from both our failures and successes. And for the rest of the journey, implement new and better decisions. Then maybe we will fail again, not 100%, maybe just 10 or 15 or 25. But if we learn from those mistakes, from those failures, it means that we can somehow allow us a better journey towards the agile transformation and the agile success. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, I am open to your questions, and I will try to see if I see some of the questions here. But maybe Tony, you can help me, because I do not see them.
You can start with the question of yesterday, if you have.
Okay. So while you are thinking about the questions for today, I will start with some of the questions that were yesterday. Yesterday we started about talking about waterfall and agile, and someone considered the other approaches. And of course, I only took two of them into consideration, but in addition to agile, which is the adaptive approach, and waterfall, which is the predictive approach, we have the incremental, we have the iterative, we have the hybrid. That was the comment of the audience. And of course, we have new practices. We are talking now about continuous delivery or fluid agile. There are several practices that we can implement depending on the complexity of our project, depending on the environment, on the context. Also, it was a very nice comment from someone from the audience, because I mentioned that in Agile, we have an iterative approach, but more important, at the end of each iteration, we would like to have a valuable result. And the comment was that this valuable result could be useful deliverable, so something that our customer can use, but also it could be another meaningful result that can be later be used, because unfortunately not in all the iteration can we come up with something that is usable by our customers. And it was also okay, and now we have a question about how widespread is the agile culture in Italy. Come on, this is not a question for me because I have no clue. But in Romania, yes, I can answer about the question about Romania. We do have the majority of the IT companies working with Agile. They went, some of this company, through a whole Agile adoption, which means that they have the Agile mindset already. But many of them just borrowed some of the practices from Agile. So I cannot state that they are fully Agile, meaning that they totally embraced this way of thinking. But what is visible on the Romanian market today is that more and more companies, not from the IT sector, the non-IT sector, are starting thinking, asking about Agile. And even though they are not going through a full Agile transformation, they are thinking about how to adopt several artifacts, ceremonies, so practices of Agile. And this is, of course, because we are changing so fast, then something like this, it's mandatory.
Okay, there is another question that how fundamental it is to first develop a DevOps culture before implementing Agile, by Pietro Ferrario.
Well, you know that in project management, everything can be answered with only one word. It depends. My best recommendation would be to start small, come up with some quick wins, and prove to the rest of the organization that this is possible. We have now a company we are working with, which is at the third wave. They started with 2 teams, the first wave, the most enthusiastic people. Then they continued with 5 more teams, and now the third wave, it's with teams from Romania and Belgium. They work together, and of course that they use the first wave people now to support the second and the third wave. Some of the Scrum Masters and product owners from the first wave, they became Agile coaches for the people from the third wave, the most resistant, let's say. So it depends for each of the companies if they go through different stages. For this company, DevOps stage was somehow included, but only with some of the elements. There is one interesting question if the constructions company use Agile, and I like this very much because there is a gentleman who wrote a book in which construction companies are using Agile. I do not think that Agile can be applied in a construction company, but I do think that some of the elements from the Agile mindset can be applied. I see for the construction companies more maybe a hybrid approach, in which in a waterfall approach you can come up with elements of Agile. But I had a huge debate with that gentleman, and we agreed in the end that we disagree.
Okay, I think the time is over. We have all the questions, so we will submit to you the question, and we ask you to answer offline. Just some a few words before to stop the webinar. The documentation will be available in our in the PMI NIC website, as well as the question and answer session. Now we invite you to subscribe to the next webinar that will be in 27th of March and will be held by Tiziano Villa, knowledge worker come fattore di successo del progetto. So I think I would like to thank Simona for this very interesting perspective. Just I do not have to forget that if you have already inserted your ID PMI, the PDU will be charged directly in your account, in your dashboard. You will receive a feedback form, and the material, I've already said that the material will be available in the NIC website. So thanks, Simona, for this very interesting session. These two webinars was very exciting and interesting for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Arrivederci a tutti.
And thank you to all participants. Bye bye.